Welcome back to another Kray video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really into the Krays, join our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London, where you will find stuff probably unavailable anywhere else. We're an established group with a large membership, and best of all, we're friendly. The link is in the YouTube description section.
In the previous episode, Ronnie and Reggie had duped the authorities inside Longgrove Mental Hospital into allowing Ron to walk out of the institution and into a waiting car before being driven to freedom. Now, Reggie had set up his hideout in a caravan in the ancient woodland, deep in the Suffolk countryside. Most weekends, Reggie came down to the caravan with a vanload of food and drink, and a few friends who could be relied on to be discreet. They had some splendid parties. Ronnie would hear all the news from home, and when there were visitors, he would usually drink until he dropped off to sleep where he was. Reggie organized these parties to stop Ronnie feeling forgotten, but soon they were having the opposite effect. Talking of London made him realize how much he missed it, and when Reggie and his friends drove back on Sunday night, he felt abandoned and confined within the four walls of the caravan. Teddy could get him out of his moods in the end, and they would start their sparring and hunting and midnight walks. Then one more weekend would arrive, another party, and the following week, Ronnie's moods would be worse than ever. For the first time now, sex was a problem. Had Ronnie liked women, it would have been easier to keep him satisfied. But in the middle of Suffolk, it was impossible to ensure the supply of young male prospects he had enjoyed in London without arousing local suspicions. Reggie started bringing boys along at the weekends to keep the Colonel quiet. This was a mistake. Ronnie would always try and make the boy stay. By Sunday afternoons, terrible rows would start when Reggie insisted that the boy return with him. Jealous and frustrated, Ronnie would finally have to watch the boy he fancied be driven back to London on the Sunday evening. As usual, Reggie finally gave in. He knew that it was risky, but he let Ronnie have his night in London. It was a success. Reggie had borrowed a flat in Tottenham, and the following day, his mother and a few friends visited Ronnie there before he drove him back to the country. But if Reggie imagined that the Colonel would be satisfied with one visit, he should have known him better. He was soon clamoring for another. Within a week, Reggie had given in again, arranging a small party for the Colonel at a fresh address. The following week, there was another, and in no time, the comings and goings were being whispered around the East End. The Colonel's legend had begun again. One evening, Ronnie would turn up at Valence Road. Another, he materialized in the middle of the engagement party for his cousin Rita, who was marrying his old friend Richie Smith. He even visited the Double R. This was the Colonel's own command performance, and the twins made the most of it. It was arranged for late at night, long after closing time, when the place had been cleared of all but the most trusted of their friends. As a special precaution, a decoy car, similar to Ronnie's, was driven to the club first, and someone of Ronnie's height and build hurried in with his collar up and face muffled. Everyone waited in case the law had been watching. When nothing happened, Reggie had his moment of drama, lifting the telephone, dialing the number where Ronnie was waiting, allowing it to ring twice, and then replacing it. This was the signal that the coast was clear. 10 minutes later, the Colonel arrived. Soon they were famous, these fly-by-night visits of the Colonel to the Double R, a great secret for the other world of London criminals, and Reggie was quick to draw maximum kudos from his now notorious brother. Many of the top London villains were invited to the Double R after closing time to witness the Colonel's famous reappearing act. One night, Billy Hill was there. Since he had retired from his kingship of the underworld, Billy Hill had changed. Wealth and exile had softened him, and he was a reserved, softly spoken figure now, blinking from behind large magnifying spectacles and giving the impression of a certain shyness, often adopted by those who have withdrawn from the power game. But although he had opted out, he had a nose for what was going on and who was rising. For him to turn up at the Double R on one of his occasional visits from abroad showed that the twins were news again. Charlie Kray saw what was happening and did his best to warn Reggie. Ronnie should be thinking of surrendering and getting his sentence over, but by now, the twins were far too busy enjoying the situation. One night, Ronnie disguised himself and walked the length of the Whitechapel Road, laughing each time he passed the policeman who was still supposed to be searching for him. Another time, he put on one of Reggie's suits and sat in a pub where the locals were used to seeing his brother. "Evening, Reg. Any news of Ron?" "No. Wish him luck if you meet him." Then Reggie had an idea. Through his doctor, he found the name of a good Harley Street psychiatrist and made an appointment for a Mr. John Lee. Lee was their mother's maiden name, and on the day of the appointment, it was Ronnie Kray who turned up at the Harley Street waiting room. He was well-dressed, quite calm, and he and Reggie had carefully worked out beforehand what to say. When he saw the doctor, Ronnie explained his problem. He was engaged to be married. He and the girl were very much in love, but her family had raised an objection. Some way back in his family, there had been a touch of insanity, and they were worried that he might go the same way. His girlfriend wasn't worried, but could the doctor give him a test or two and write a letter saying he wasn't mad? It would set his future in-laws' minds at rest. The psychiatrist was a good-natured man with a sense of humor. It was an unusual request, but not unreasonable. Mr. Lee seemed a normal, somewhat earnest young man. They talked for 20 minutes or so. The doctor asked various questions, which Ronnie answered satisfactorily, and the doctor wrote a brief note on his headed paper, giving it as his serious professional opinion that Mr. John Lee, of 178 Valence Road, was as sane as the next man. The letter from the psychiatrist was one reason why Reggie wouldn't listen to Teddy when he told him that Ronnie was going mad again. During their adventures in London, Reggie was seeing the Colonel he knew, but every time Ronnie returned to the caravan for a few days, Teddy saw something different and was becoming frightened. Each trip to London now left Ronnie deeply depressed, and he spent days in bed, drinking himself into a stupor. If he got up, things were worse. Anything in the outside world could start his fears. One day, he saw someone passing down the road and spent the whole day worrying. By evening, he was frantic, shouting that he had to get away to London. Teddy called in the farmer. Between them, they quietened him down, got him drunk, and left him to sleep off his fears. They decided that until they could speak to Reggie, Ronnie and Teddy would both sleep at the farm. It would be easier to control him there if anything went wrong. The rest of that day, Ronnie seemed quite happy pottering around the farm. That evening, after supper, he and the farmer watched television. Suddenly, the telephone rang. It was someone from the village reminding the farmer about some business he had forgotten. When he had promised to do it and replaced the telephone, he said, "I wish he'd leave me alone. He's just a bloody menace, that man." Ronnie fell silent. They had a few drinks. Television ended, And as the farmer was going off to bed, Ronnie stopped him. "Listen," he said, "you've been a good friend, and I know just how you feel about that bastard getting at you on the phone. Just give me his address. I'll kill him for you. It's the only thing to do with scum like that." The farmer was no fool and knew that Ronnie meant just what he said. That night, the farmer rang a Harley Street psychiatrist he knew, explained the situation, and arranged to take Ronnie to see him the next day. This time, the examination was more probing than on Ronnie's previous visit to Harley Street. They drove back to the farm in time for supper. Ronnie was feeling tired. When he was in bed, the farmer rang the specialist for his verdict. "I don't know who your friend is, but he's clearly homicidal. He shows all the symptoms of advanced paranoid schizophrenia. Get him to a hospital, or anything could happen." Reggie wouldn't hear of it, although the farmer rang him straight away. Ronnie was convinced that once he entered any institution, his enemies would get him and he would be there for life. And he could still present quite a coherent front to the world in general. Teddy and the farmer were the only friends who really knew how sick he was. And so the trips to London continued. When the farmer suggested getting Ronnie medical treatment, storms of resentment followed. Then, for the farmer and for Teddy, the problem solved itself. The year 1958 was a vintage one for jailbreaks. Ronnie's departure from Long Grove was eclipsed by that virtuoso fugitive, Mr. Alfred Hines, who earlier that year had walked out of the law courts in the Strand and never been heard of since. Hines was a bigger fish than Ronnie Kray. The police were still searching for him and nearly picked up Ronnie Kray instead. Somebody had seen his midnight walks from the farm and reported them to the police. There was a slender chance that this was Hines. Early one morning, the Sudbury police called at the farm to check in case it was. Ronnie and Teddy by now slept permanently at the farm. Both were in bed. But the farmer handled the police perfectly, asking them in, explaining that his guest did like walking at night, then calling Teddy to meet them. This settled things at once. No one could possibly mistake this burly young tough for the gnome like Mr. Hines. The police departed, but Ronnie had been listening upstairs. He had been dreading the police for weeks. His fears now seemed confirmed. No one could reason with him. Either he got away at once, or he would kill anyone who tried to stop him. The farmer agreed with him, rang through to Reggie at the R, and left it to Ronnie to beg his brother to come and take him away. This time, Reggie was convinced. By the time he came, Ronnie was worse. "You're not my brother. You're just a dirty Russian spy. Got up to look like him." "Of course I'm Reg," insisted Reggie. "You've known me all your life." "You just look like him," argued Ronnie. "You're a dirty agent in disguise. Your police missed me this morning. You've come to take me off to kill me somewhere." "Don't you remember the old scar on my arm?" pleaded Reg. Ronnie did remember and allowed himself to be led out to his brother's car and driven up to London. He insisted on making the whole journey in the boot of the vehicle. For Reggie Kray, the fantasy was over. He had to face the truth about his brother. The game they'd played was finished. Ronnie was no colonel, but his mentally deranged twin brother. Now, for the first time, he was truly scared. For a while, I really thought that I was going off my head myself, figured Reggie. There was one person who might help. Their mother. Once they were back at Valence Road, Violet Kray managed to calm Ronnie for a while, but not for long. How did he know that this was Valence Road? It looked like it, but that proved nothing. Similarly with this woman, she looked just like his mother, but possibly that went to prove just what a cunning lot they were. That night, the family called in a doctor they could trust, and who had known the twins for many years. I knew that technically, Ronnie was insane, and did my best to get him into hospital. He was in a dreadful state. All I could do that night was give him sedatives and warn the family what would happen if he didn't get the treatment that he needed. Most of the family agreed with the doctor, but Reggie was adamant. Just give him time and peace and quiet. He'll be all right. To give him this, he moved with Ronnie into a third-floor luxury flat off the Bayswater Road. He never left his brother's side now and tried everything to cure him. Fresh doctors, new drugs from America, trips to the country. But each day Ronnie seemed worse, and ultimately drink was all that would keep him quiet. Sometimes he drank 2 bottles of gin a day. According to the doctor, it was chiefly alcohol that produced the physical change that was so marked in him about this time. Alcohol in any quantity, mixed with a drug affecting the central nervous system, can have the most appalling oblique effect. I know that there were times when even he was scared. It must have been like DTs 10 times over. And by this time, Reggie was drinking too. Soon, he appeared as scared and anxious as his brother. Then Ronnie got the idea that he would be all right if he could see an old friend who was now in Maidstone prison. Reggie would agree to anything by now, and a few days later fixed a visit at the prison. One of the firm took Ronnie, who entered the prison under an assumed name. For an hour, this half-mad escapee sat in the visiting room at Maidstone jail, begging his friend to make a break from prison and then come and help him. The man refused. Ronnie wept, promised anything he wanted, but the man insisted that it was not possible. At last, he agreed the family was right. Ronnie's one hope now was to get to a hospital. Next morning, the Kray family called at Scotland Yard. This was against everything they believed in, but they were giving Ronnie up. By an ironic twist, the duty sergeant could not find the name on the wanted list, and there was a long wait before the police agreed to act at all. Finally, it was arranged for them to call at Valence Road at 2 a.m. the following morning. The brothers gave their word that there would be no trouble. That evening, the twins had supper with the family at Valence Road. It was a tense meal, and although Ronnie drank a lot, for once he seemed unable to get drunk. Somebody offered him 2 powerful sleeping tablets, saying they would be good for his headache. He took them, but they had no effect. Sensing that something was not right, he started shouting and then weeping. His mother calmed him, and he went on drinking until long past midnight. The police arrived as 2 o'clock was striking. Ronnie looked up, as if expecting them, and walked out to the car without a word or glance back at his family. In a curious way, the original plan behind the escape now worked. By staying free from capture for so long, Ronnie was officially no longer insane. For a few weeks, he returned to Long Grove. Here, with the treatment he received combined with Stematol, he calmed down. By September 1958, the doctors said that he was fit to finish his prison sentence. So he returned to Wandsworth Prison, where he was treated like a normal prisoner. He was still suffering from delusions, and at times, he became so violent that he was placed in a straitjacket several times for his own safety. Despite this, he was permitted to conclude his sentence. Ronnie says that no further Stematol was given to him. And in the spring of 1959, this sick young homicidal psychopath was released from prison. His old friend, Dickie Morgan, Reg and Charlie were at the gates to meet him. He scurried to their car, convinced that the Russians and the Mafia had combined to kill him. All the way back to Valence Road, he kept his head down in case someone shot at him. Once in the house, he felt he had to decide whom to kill first to save his own skin. Finally, his old doctor was able to get him into St. Clement's Hospital, where he spent the next 3 weeks under deep sedation. Slowly, he seemed to recover. First, he became an outpatient. Violet Kray looked after him at Valence Road. Stematol kept away the worst of his nightmares and permitted him to coast along the borderlines of normality. Those who had known him before his breakdown recognized that the Colonel had changed, and changed forever. He was far moodier, more erratic now, and more suspicious. He was more frightening too. Physically, he seemed more dangerous than before. The change in his appearance, which he had first noticed in the mirror in his cell at Camp Hill, had grown worse. No longer was he identical with Reggie. It may have been the combination of the drink and drugs that did it. It may have been the physical change that sometimes goes with acute cases of schizophrenia. Whatever the cause, his features coarsened, neck and jawline thickened, flesh round the eyes closed in. Reggie would keep his looks. Ronnie would be a monster. As for his mind, this had recovered from the breakdown. Soon, he would cope again with life after a fashion. But all the dangerous tendencies of this time would remain behind the thin veneer of drugs. Provided he kept calm, he would survive. Faced with excitement or with stress, he would lapse back to the paranoiac state of the previous summer. He would become abnormally suspicious. He would feel few of the emotional restraints of normal people. He would know little of fear, or apprehension, or regret. Given his previous history, he would almost certainly end by killing someone. Thank you very much for watching. That brings this episode to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly, moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.